So after the first match, I see that my team kind of forgot a lot of things that I say. So I try to reduce the reminders for them. So I just try to give them the bare minimum things that they should have in their speech, so that it can follow the whole case that we have already set.
Also, it was our first time on stage, so everyone was a little bit nervous and we lost control of time and how the content flow is. So for this quarterfinal battle, we will try to be more calm and collected and try our best to present our case.
So with this motion, we have talked about like how this the dreams, the dominant narrative could create the immense pressure for the youth, and also will these narrative bring changes to society and help the youth to achieve what they want in the future.
So for this quarterfinal, we are trying to put ourselves into the perspective of the emotions, and we want to fully understand this topic, so therefore we can have an impactful performance for the audience.
VTV7 chiến.
I think the most meaningful lesson I've learned is that I shouldn't be on my nerve when I was on the stage, because being on there's nothing to worry about anymore. You can do anything, really do anything, but your confidence will reflect in the performance.
So I think after the first round, I should spend more time on proving how our world is a better place, because in the first round, I cannot, control my speech, and I spend a lot of time on attacking, the proposition's arguments.
The motion we received this time is a very familiar one, but it's still complicated, so we did change our cases multiple times. However, thankfully, thanks to the help of my mentor and the team's work, we are able to work on it quite coherently.
And my contribution towards their plan is to be able to assist them in making sure that their case is nuanced and every single argument is incredibly polished. It has all the impacts it needs to be in order for them to deliver a good speech, and to also structure them in a way that is going to be very clear for the adjudicators, for the judges.
We'll do our best.
Come and ignite your passion. Ignite your passion.
Welcome back to The Debater Season 3, a debate game show for high school students all across Vietnam, and production by VTV7 and British University Vietnam. My name is L.A.S.E.R Vũ, and I'll be your host today. We've selected 2 teams to move on to the semifinals, and today we will select another team to move on to the semifinals. But don't give up yet. Out of the 3 remaining teams, the judges will pick their favorite to also move on to the semifinals, meaning that we will have 4 teams moving on to the semifinals today. With that being said, let's take a look at our motion for today. That we oppose the dominant narrative that young people should have a dream. In Reply 1988, a classic Korean drama that's been getting pretty hot recently, there's a scene of a father that tells his daughter it's okay if you don't have a dream as long as you're a good person. There's also a book, Vâng ổn thôi, kể cả khi bạn không có ước mơ, who also describes the same perspective. Many children nowadays, growing up in a society full of many pressures, have a really hard time selecting a particular dream to aim for. It will be interesting today to see our students' perspective on having a dream. And is it okay to not have a dream? With that being said, let me invite our 2 teams up today. On the proposition side, may I please have Fat Cat. And on the opposition side, may I please have L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu. Hello, guys. How does it feel to be back?
It feels like we're pretty welcome here.
You're pretty welcome here. Have you guys done any preparing for this time?
Surely we've prepared with our hearts in this motion.
Good luck, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you guys are from Ho Chi Minh City, right?
Yes, we are.
Pretty far travels. How does it feel to be back?
And we're also very happy that we'll be able to bring our 4th member here on stage.
4th member, nice. Welcome, welcome. Keep calm, and I'm sure you guys will do great, okay? Good luck to you guys. And it wouldn't be complete without our panel of judges. Judges, how are we feeling about today's motion? Mr. Hugh?
Well, I could be like a little bit hesitant about which side I could prefer to debate if I were given this motion, but I think I'm one of those who tend to spread dominant narrative about like people should have a dream. So I'm trying not to be biased today from my personal perspective.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Uying, how do you feel about the topic today?
I'm a little bit biased in here, but this is my favorite motion as well. Because it's really relatable for me as someone who always, strongly know what I like to do. But if you ask me like, okay, what is your dream? I actually struggle for a very long time to find out and to be able to have the courage to follow my dream. So I think this is definitely a very interesting motion because it can, relate to a lot of students and even parents and teachers out there.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Stewart, now being an adult looking back at your childhood, was there a dream that you had in particular?
Yeah, it was a really weird one. When I was younger, I was obsessed with insects and bugs. And I was very convinced as a kid that my job when I was older would be traveling the world and collecting and finding new insects and bugs. And I sit before you as the head of an English department in Vietnam, not collecting insects and bugs. And I think it's quite normal for your dreams to take different paths as you kind of grow older. So even if you have a dream when you're younger, that isn't necessarily the thing that you're going to evolve into.
Thank you so much, judges. And with that being said, I'd like to invite up our first two speakers for round one. From the proposition team, may I please have Nguyễn Tuấn Phước. Welcome. And from the opposition team, may I please have Huỳnh Minh Nhật. So my friend, for being the first speaker, is there any particular tactic you're going to try to use?
Being the first speaker, I would love to be able to express my thoughts about how this motion to turn out to be and how we should discuss about it.
Okay. Nice. Well, good luck to you, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. Alrighty, and Minh Nhật, how do you feel about being the first speaker out for your team?
It's a bit nervous, but what I learned most from last time is that I shouldn't be that nervous because my confidence was reflecting my performance. So this time, I'm a little bit more convinced in myself.
Okay, nice. You've got to be convinced in yourself. Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much. And good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. Before we start the first round, I'd like to go over the rules really quickly. Each contestant will have 3 minutes to present their speech. There will be no POIs during this round, and the proposition side will go first. Any questions?
No.
No? With that being said, let the debates begin.
To have a dream is to have an ultimate purpose and direction in your lifetime. So, what does this dominant narrative look like? It infers that young people could find something big to pursue for life, and they're expected to solve this puzzle. And life without dreams is miserable and meaningless. So, if young people can achieve their dreams, they'll be reckoned as the successful. So, as a dominant narrative, it is conveyed in various aspects of society, from media, movies, feature films, fairy tales, lessons taught and respected, repeated constantly by parents, literary work, and cultural projects, and etc. So, how does our side differentiate from the status quo? Our counterfactual is not to advocate for this narrative, whilst not opposing young people to have their own dreams. Coming to our first argument, the narrative wreaks long-term repercussion on young people's mental well-being. Dreams are discovered and changed throughout a process of trials and errors, and only when people have enough understanding of themselves will they want to have a goal to pursue. So in reality, there are people who live without a clear dream for years, and even if they're all lives. So why do we believe that this narrative fails young people? Most people have no clue about what they're going to do and where they want to be in the future, and are still clearly in the early stage of their journey establishing their own identity. They lack the experience life-wise, and many don't have the motivation and capital to try different things that would discover their pursuit. In many places, young people have little to no orientation at all, which reduces the chance of them knowing what life has to offer, and they only devote for themselves to studying for exams without any sort of guidance for life after school. An example, an Asian kid with an A+ in math might be pushed to be an engineer instead of later finding out that they actually love doing artwork. And by not receiving the necessary support and guidance young people actually need, they're not exposed to diverse available potential directions in their lives. Why does this matter? We see the urgency for people to understand that this motion, this dominant narrative, doesn't improve the status quo, but rather creating an unreasonable and harmful pressure for the youth. Being constantly clueless being constantly pressured by the fact that you need to have a dream while being clueless will not give them a boost, but rather an obligation for them to be as good as their peers and to fulfill the dominance culture expectations. And many people will rush to find and fastly choose a dream just because they feel the pressure to do that. But in the long run, that's not what you succeed on. That's not the incentives. Because as you somehow have to achievements that in that field, they're unlikely to be happy because that's not what they dream of at the beginning. And also, this constant pressure gives people doubt about themselves. And when their peers found the dreams before them, they will be blamed for not having a dream and not finding one, even though the process of finding one takes time and is required a fundamental thing. So inevitably, this causes a mental breakdown. So what we need from the opposition team is the structural reasons why the status quo is sufficient for the youth to understand themselves and to discover their dream. And two, the immense pressure that caused by a narrative is justified. Thank you.
What you have stated almost on your status quo is all the problem that we also want to solve. So we will prove that our side will best solve that problem. So you say that people don't have dream, don't have guidance, so they learn like they mindlessly learn to just do what other people tell them to learn. And in our argument, we will prove that how this dominant narrative would give, them that direction. Let's give some framing. Dominant narrative is a steering force that socially impacts people and their decision, and it presents in any word. So it need no media marketing. It presents in everybody's mind. So not that society and parents forcing dream on young people, but young people themselves knows that and they're actively looking for that dream because of the dominant narrative. So dream, what is dream? Dream is a passion that you want to pursue, and it doesn't have to be big, it's just a dream. So it's not something that you fall into, but it's something that you find inside oneself. And our goal in this debate is to provide best preparation for young people in their career and their mental health. Without this narrative being dominant, we believe that there'll be other narrative that's worse. On to our first argument. This narrative helps them prepare for the inevitable real world in the future. In either word, young people have to take college exam, they have to choose major, choose job. So people at some point still have to make decisions, even when they're young. So dream work as a compass, give them clear view of what they should do and choose to achieve dream, and ultimately to lead into a fulfilling life. First layer, dream, knowing what a dream is, they can, choose how to study, to gather knowledge, to make relationship and connection is helpful to eventually perform well in exam and both in overall career. Second layer, making a decision making most precise will require careful learning, re-evaluation, and two of these can only be achieved given time. So the sooner the dream, the better the outcome. Even in the worst scenario, when one realizes that the former passion is not really that suitable, it will still be beneficial for them because they have narrowed down the option and they also have a greater knowledge of themselves, of what they should do, of what they're good at, and what they want and aspire to. It helps them to better navigate their dream and their position in the future. In proper, the counterfactual narrative tells young people to forego dream entirely, delaying making decisions of the principal passion that likely to choose wrong path, likely to switch major and job, worse yet, drop out. So they are less competitive to their peers given less time, and which would ultimately jeopardizing their success. In proper, there are alternative narratives that are even more harmful. Dreams are not considered important and not have dreams of their own, so they expect to do what society them deem best. And on your mental health thing, we believe that this would improve their mental health because though they do feel pressure in the short term, but in the long term, they have a fulfilling career, a fulfilling that they enjoy doing, and that make money, that bring goods to them, that will solve them mental health issue from later on in their adult life. Thank you for listening.
Nice job, guys. I see you have some breathing problems. Are you okay?
All right.
You all right? A little nervous?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, you did a good job, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. Judges, how are we doing? Looks like Mr. Hugh, you're ready, right?
Thank you, guys. I'm going to be very quick. With the proposition team, I like your characterization. However, I have to alert you guys a little bit. And there's a list of things you list out in your characterization. Some work towards your stance, but some probably will be against your stance. So I think trying to look at the characterization again of young people and see which one really going to strengthen your stance and which one will actually weaken your stance. I will not point that out so that I won't give any tips to the opposition team. But anyway, nice setup, good logical flow, but I feel like the characterization it's kind of conflicting for me a little bit. With the opposition team, I'm going to be very quick. Like you guys skim through the rebuttals. I don't see like a strong rebuttal at all. And I have to alert a little bit. I think you guys have to refocus a little bit on the dominant narrative. I feel like you are trying to convince me about is it good for young people to have a dream? It's slightly, away from the main motion, which is the dominant narrative. You only come to that towards the end of your speech, but the first part argument is really about should young people have a dream or not. So I feel it's slightly away from the main motion here, which is the dominant narrative. And for that particular reason, my 10 point go to the proposition team.
And Mr. Stewart.
With Fat Cats, the proposition team had some good points in there, but I think ultimately it was lacking a bit of clarity for myself. So some of the main points could have been at least kind of articulated in a way that made the main points stand out from each other. It got to a point where it became a little bit of a narrative of points, and it was sometimes hard to kind of distinguish where one started and another one ended. What I did really like is that you guys immediately placed the burden on the other side, and you mentioned the things that they need to try and prove. And now they're going to be going both into their second and third rounds with that hanging over them, because if they can't address the issues that you've identified, then it's going to be very, very difficult for them to kind of continue through the rounds. For the L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu side, I had to agree with Sahil. I think some of the rebuttals didn't quite hit. Your points were, for me, a little bit clearer and a little bit stronger. However, I also have to agree with Sahil in the sense that we need to be making sure that we're talking about a dominant narrative. And we also, I think you need to address some of the ideas that the other side are saying about whether a dream is an authentic dream or whether it's been forced. It can't just be enough for someone to have a dream, it's the way in which that dream is developed, because their side says dreams exist as well. However, looking at both sides, in terms of the clarity of points, I'm going to give my marks to the opposition side.
So it looks like we're at a tie, 10-10. Ms. Wing, let's break the tie.
Frankly speaking, I feel like both of you guys, because you were so nervous, so your performance was not really spot on in this turn. I would say that I completely agree with my fellow judges, especially what Mr. Hugh said to you guys about the stance and how your explanation actually didn't come through. I'm just going to add a little bit for the proposition side. I feel like your stand was a little bit shaky, and also, I cannot see your outcome shine through really clear. One idea I feel like really highlighted in your case is when you talk about how many people actually don't have the motivation or the capital to actually to know what they like to have a dream. I think that's actually a really nice idea, but you just need to push it a little bit further so I can see exactly what is wrong when we apply this dominant narrative onto this group of people. For the opposition side, I really like the idea when you talk about dream actually can be a compass for you, it can lead you through life. I think that's a nice idea, but the same comment like the proposition side give me a little bit push in there. Also, I think opposition side, you have the burden to rebut, and you didn't really do that quite well for me. So for that being said, I would say my 10 points go to the proposition side.
With that being said, the proposition team has 20 points and the opposition team has 10 points, but we still have many chances to even it out, so don't worry, guys. Okay, thank you guys so much. Nice, guys. Please take a seat. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with round 2.
We see the urgency for people to understand that this motion, this dominant narrative, doesn't improve the status quo, but rather creating an unreasonable and harmful pressure for the youth.
Dream work as a compass to give them a clear view of what they should do and choose to achieve dream, and ultimately to lead into a fulfilling life.
So I think trying to look at the characterization again of young people and see which one really going to strengthen your stance and which one will actually weaken your stance.
Welcome back to the Debaters Season 3. We're coming right into round 2. I won't keep you guys waiting. Let's get our teams up here. On the proposition side, may I please have Hoàng Ngọc Linh. Welcome up. And on my opposition side, may I please have Đỗ Ngọc Nam Phương. Hello.
Hi.
You look a little nervous, my friend.
Yes, I am, really.
So I noticed on your team, everybody talks very quietly. Is that like a tactic for you guys?
I think that maybe we're keeping the silence because we want to have some time to calm out ourselves.
Calm down yourself? Well, I think you're gonna do good, so just, it's okay, don't worry, don't be nervous. Okay? I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. And this is your first time on the show, right?
Yeah, so this is my first time.
So how do you feel?
I'm nervous, but also excited to speak what I think it will for my team.
Well, I hope to see you more, okay?
Yeah.
Good luck, okay? Before we get started, I want to review the rules for round 2. Each contestant will have 4 minutes to present their speech. POIs are allowed under 15 seconds, and the proposition team will go first. Any questions?
No.
With that being said, let the debates begin.
Dreams are beautiful. However, with the dominant narrative, they aren't beautiful animals. So first, I want to give some rebuttals to the opposition team. So first, they're stating that because the dominant narrative, they give the young people a boost so that they can have dreams, and even if they fail, they can narrow down one choice and they can try to have another dream. However, we believe there are two problems because first, as we have mentioned, the dominant narrative is not only a boost but also an obligation for the young that they have to express so they can be the same as their peers and they can fulfill the expectations of the societies. And then they rush to choose a dream that does not fit themselves, that does not fit their need and their desire. And then when they fail, these failures, they are not their failures, but they are failures made because they are roasted and they are forced to do that dream, and now they fail, and it will even discourage them more to overcome that failures and actually try to find a new dream. And then instead of making these failures, they could have used that time, take their time to utilize that and learn more, gaining more experience. Another super time, they could have decided their dream and then try to follow that with every step are secure. And then they also said that this dominant narrative, they can give this guidance to the young people. However, we believe that this guidance is limited, and we will discuss that in second argument, which is that the narrative from systematic discriminations and limitations against the young people's dreams. So why do we say that? Because people, we are unique and we grow up in different backgrounds and experiences. Therefore, we want different things. However, suddenly socially constructed dreams are promoted, and anything falling out of scopes will be considered inappropriate. And this results from two things. Firstly, social stereotypes of success determine what achieving dreams is. Our society is glorifying having degrees and having the money to buy the luxury possessions, and therefore jobs in computer science, finance, and high-paying jobs like doctors, lawyers are promoted. And secondly, norms about gender roles push males and females into certain dreams, and according to U.S. estimates, around the world, there is still 120 million girls out there are out of school, and it's mainly because of the social norm that girls are meant to be stay at home and take care of the husband and the children. And when these young people, they fail to meet these ideal standards, their dreams are invalid, and this dominant narrative, they are not willing to support them because that is not the most ideal dream in their belief. And why is this the most important impact? Two reasons. First, the minors with unconventional dreams will only receive little to no support by political and social actors because this dominant narrative, it creates the definitions of the right dream. Then people gradually form this bias towards certain dreams, and in order to gain the benefit, the support from the vast majority, these political and social actors, they are more likely to invest only in the preferred fields and neglect the less interested one. Then this will only back young people into a corner and create a systematic discriminations. And nevertheless, this dominant narrative, it enhances structural hindrance against the people opposing it, because whether young people succeed with their personal dreams or not, they are always devalued and they are considered failures because these are not the most ideal one in the eyes of the dominant cultures. And because dreams are faded with the gender norms, with the narrative being dominant, less people will be pushed into the biased gender roles. For example, we are seeing females working in the business these fields. However, they are not given equivalent promotions and also over-criticized as too ambitious. And as dominant narrative, they still enhance such stereotypes and inequality. Our society will witness fewer and fewer female role models that succeed in this field. And then the next generation, our young generation, will be less likely to encourage to reach their full potentials, and they take all the blame from themselves just because of genders. And because of that, in that society, we are not seeing the young people. They are live the dreams they want, but live the dream that the society wants. And therefore, we are proud to propose.
You have to dream to make your dream come true. We believe this case for both words, and that is why we believe that the points our proposition has brought up to the debate is invalid. Firstly, I would like to restate our stance. So the first argument, what our first speaker was trying to say is that there are mutual deadlines in both words. In both words, you have to pick your high school, you have to get through your high school entrance exam, and finally you have to choose a university that you will go to or a job that you will apply for. So in a word that we have this dominant narrative, that means that social media or everyone cares about what the dream a young person has, then they would have more motivation for them to find out and to look into what they want to do sooner. And that time, the abundance of time, will allow them to an easier future where they know sooner what they want to do. And on your side, they are not encouraged, or at least there are no enforcements of obligation if people need to dream. And for the vast majority of people, as you say, they don't know what they're doing, and they're delaying picking their dreams. Then if that's the case, then it will be worse for the young people in your word when the deadline comes and they don't know what to do. So I want to make some rebuttals. First, you told us about social stereotypes that exist and will force people into choosing the jobs that is considered prestigious or high-paying. And I think that it is invalid because it exists in both words. In your word, stereotypes still exist, and at least in the opposition word, the young people know what they want to do, and when that deadline comes, they know, even if they're forced to, they know that, okay, maybe doing art is my dream. But in your word, when you're letting people freely choose, then they still exist the social stereotypes that has the same pressure in the youth in both words. And two, you're saying about girls staying at home and equality. And I think the inequality in work or anything, it's because the lack of dream. It is why we need to solve it. If the girls or the women that have dream, and we have this dominant narrative that young people should dream, then parents will motivate the children. School motivate the children to have their own dream, not like your word, that women will choose to stay at home because they have no dream or they're forced to. That is why we believe that we will win. And okay, let's come to the second argument. This narrative being dominant would enable social mobility, which is the exclusive value that we can bring to. So in your word, where people don't praise the narrative, then the stakeholder that is affected the most is the young people coming from poor families or from rural areas. So for them, the matters the most to them is making a living. So worse, they have no reference point or have nothing to tell them that they should dream bigger. So because dream seems like a fancy things for them. So what they are supposed to do is that they take up any manual laboring work and make money as soon as possible. Therefore, your work results in rich people getting richer because they have the resources to purchase dream. But poor people will get poorer because they stay still at the same social status while people are constantly moving up. However, the word of opposition will bring a wider spectrum of opportunities to young people because this narrative have two mechanisms. This narrative is dominant. That's why poor people will acknowledge themselves that they need to have a dream, and a dream is what is fundamental to them. And two, since dream of young people is the focus of the society, there will be the government and education system, there will be more opportunities for them to thrive in life. And three, they will look at examples of poor students pursuing their dreams to be highly praised. That's why we think that young people in our side will receive much better benefits, and we bring the benefits to even the most vulnerable stakeholder in the society. So proud to oppose.
Nice job, ladies. Judges. Why don't we start off with Stuart?
In terms of the ideas you've both brought, there's one side that I'm definitely kind of leaning more towards in terms of which one I'm more convinced by. So on the one hand, we've got a couple of arguments mentioning social stereotypes and gender roles, and actually being encouraged, or at least a dominant narrative to have a dream, risks us into going into having dreams that are conducted or at least normalized by society. I think it's a little bit of a shaky argument there. I do like the fact that you've tried to talk about the impact. However, I think when we kind of pull it back a little bit and look at the main arguments, there's still a few holes, and it received a lot of kind of emphasis throughout your term. On the other side, for the opposition team, your strongest point for me was the notion of social mobility. And I think what both sides really need to do is think about what dominant narrative is, because there's a lot of talk about dreams quite generally, and not much focus really on what this dominant narrative necessarily means. For the opposition side, you said that if having a dream is the dominant narrative, that is a real mechanism to allow people who are from lower social statuses or lower social classes to have that dream and move upwards. And for me, the opposition side had the most clearest connection between the idea and the stakeholders, and thus the impact. Therefore, my 10 points will go to the opposition side for that round.
Nice. Perfect. And you've put us in a tie. We are now 20-20. So, Ms. Wing, I'd like to hear from you.
Well, in the second turn, I see that there are a lot of hit and miss in this turn. So let's start with the positive feedback. I think in this turn, both teams make a lot of efforts to give me a lot of great ideas. And definitely, you guys try to elevate the debate by talking more about social issues relating to this. So I really like your ideas. For the proposition side, I like the ideas about how by having this narrative, it becomes an obligation, it becomes a pressure, and you push it forward. Or the ideas about like how they're gonna grow hatred towards people who oppose their dream. I just need more impact in that, like my fellow judge also said. For opposition side, I extremely like the idea about social mobility, and I really like the part when you actually try to explain the mechanism of how it actually works. So good ideas for both of you. The small problems I have in this turn is that, first of all, there was no POIs or efforts of, raising POI, which make it a little bit down. The mood is a little bit down a bit. And also, you guys tend to read a lot. So I feel like I would communicate with you guys better if you guys can, actually talk to the opponent team or so. Now, in terms of the content, I feel for the proposition side, I see your effort, but I don't see your outcome to be quite clear. So let's say, well, people are gonna hate other people who oppose their dream, right? Then what's gonna happen about that? How the society going to look like? And also your ideas, I see a little bit stretched in some points that you made. For the opposition side, the rebuttal was not very strong. But all in all, I would say that your case, especially the second argument, is more solid than the proposition side. So my 10 points would go to the opposition side.
Thank you so much, Ms. Wing. That gives you guys an advantage of 10 points over here. And Mr. Hu, can I please hear from you?
Thank you. So I think here's what I'm saying. I don't think both of you do well in the rebuttal. With the proposition team, I think you're trying to scale it up to the society level and trying to squeeze in these kind of like gender roles and stereotype dreams. I see where you're going, but I feel like to go from this narrative to that kind of direction, it needs some kind of like fill-in, it kind of needs some bridge to go from this like dominant narrative of like having a dream towards like bias towards certain dreams. You know what I mean? I see the direction, but I feel like it's just jumping without the bridge. That I feel like, are they debating about different motion, for example? So I think that some things that I'm missing from the proposition team. With the opposition team, I do also like the idea of social mobility as well. It comes a little bit towards the end, but I think it's a strong argument, and I don't have to fill in the gap too much, because I think it's fitting into this motion quite well, even though it's not developed, but I feel like I don't have to make the logical bridge on my own and then buy in that argument. So that's why my 10 points also go to the opposition team.
Nice. Thank you so much. With that being said, our proposition team has 20 points and the opposition team has 40 points. But don't worry, there's still plenty of room for changes. Thank you so much, ladies. You guys can take a seat, please. And hang in, folks. We'll be right back with our third round of debates.
When these young people, they fail to meet these ideal standards, their dreams are invalid, and this dominant narrative, they are not willing to support them because that is not the most ideal dream in their belief.
Your word results in rich people getting richer because they have the resources to purchase dream, but poor people will get poorer because they stay still at the same social status while people are constantly moving up.
So let's say, well, people gonna hate other people who oppose their dream, right? Then what's gonna happen about that? How the society going to look like?
Welcome back to The Debaters Season 3. We're now down to round 3 of our debates today. Currently, the proposition team has 20 points and the opposition team has 40 points, but there's still plenty of chances for changes. Please, without further ado, let me invite up to the stage our contestants. On the proposition side, may I please have L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu. And on the opposition side, may I please have PHảN ĐḵI. Welcome, welcome. So they've been getting on the rebuttals. What are we going to do this time?
I will try my best. I don't really have anything to say prior to the round, really.
Prior to the round, but after the round you will, right?
Hopefully.
Okay, well, good luck to you, okay?
Yes.
It's nice to see you back up here. So your predecessor did pretty good. Are you going to live up to that?
I hope so. I'm pretty excited and nervous at the same time, but I hope I could do my best.
I think excited is always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Just channel your energy.
Always.
Okay, well, best of luck to you, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Before we get started in the third round, I'd like to review our rules. Each contestant will have 4 minutes to present their speech. POIs are allowed under 15 seconds, and we'll start with the proposition team. Any questions? Okay. With that being said, let the debates begin.
The opposite team mentioned that without trials, without experiments, and that the dominant narrative is providing us with trials, with experiment for those young people to go out there and experiment and find out their dream. However, failure that resulted from a choice, a decision that is not of their own, will demotivate them. They will give up midway, whatever that dream is. This causes them to resent those who have pushed them into it, which is the dominant narrative, which is their family, which is the society, the media that is enforcing them every day. Now, that pushes the dominant narrative's intent to push them to experience proves to be ineffective because this will eventually demotivate them because it is not their choice to pursue that dream. The second speaker also mentioned that you have to dream to make your dreams come true. The dominant narrative claim to care about what these young people dream about. And they say that parents want to motivate their children to learn. Schools want to motivate their children to learn. However, they only want their children to learn certain dreams. Why? Because the dominant narrative is an ideal, it's believed that it enforces as a society without much discussion. People just widely accept it because they believe it's right. It is accumulated from thousands of years ago and updated maybe like twice in their life. And now it is so outdated, people still believing it because it is so widely accepted. It's not argued against and people just blindly follow it. That is why people are pushed towards certain dreams that are idealized by the society because the society thinks those dreams are correct. Now, the second speaker mentioned that those young people from poor families, they have no income. They must be pushed towards dream about material and material success. But even if it is true that they are to be pushed towards those dreams, the dominant narrative is providing no facilities. They are providing no actual resources to push those people to dream it. And you're just blaming, putting more burden, putting more pressure on them that those people from rich families are dreaming certain dreams. And you're not dreaming it, you have to dream it. But what would you do to push people, to actually help people achieve those dreams? Now, coming to a class comparison, first of all, it's the long-term pursuits of young people's dream. The eventual goal to your dream is that you pursue it until the end because it is a lifelong goal you want to achieve. In the short term, in the opposite side, all young people will be pushed toward pursuing socially constructed dreams. And if they successfully pursue it, they will be satisfying society and family's expectations. They will be receiving financial, emotional support. And not worrying about being met with life obstacles because they will be supported regardless. This will provide them with a sense of security and support, but only temporarily. Their dreams are proved to be worthy and stable by the dominant narrative, and so they're being provided with the resources to pursue that goal because it proves to be worth the money, worth their weight in gold, for example. But however, this proves to be so ineffective in the long term that the dominant narrative should not exist at all. The short-term plays to pass, and now they have to face the actual challenges of pursuing a dream. It's about competition, it's about rejection, and now they're pursuing a dream that is not theirs, and so they will be unwilling to do what it takes to continue to pursue those goals. They will eventually give up. After once one loses, and they lose the will to follow up, no amount of external support, either financial or emotional, will push them to actually continue and pursue that dreams. And the dominant narrative comes in with no effects at all. On outside of the house, those who have a dream are allowed time and space to discover themselves. They have no societal pressure on them, so they have a peace of mind. They have free space to experience. Those who have a dream, they're allowed to go after what they truly want, to pursue their passion with their whole heart. Both, they will have to go against expectations. They will not receive 100% support. They will feel pushback with their obstacles, but they will learn from those obstacles. The point for pushback is that you learn from it, and they're happy with this choice from the very start. So they're motivated to pursue it to the very long end, to the very end. And that is why this dominant narrative proves to be eventually ineffective, and we're beyond proud to propose. Thank you.
First, let's come to some rebuttals. We believe that social pressures exist in both worlds, but I believe that in your world, those pressures become more worse. Because why? In our world, we have healthy discussion, we have open discussions because we have the dominant narrative young people should have a dream. So society encouraged them to speak about their dream. So society's parents, because young people are more free to talk about their dreams, so societies could know their will. So in your side of the house, there are no discussion, so how could society know their dreams? And they will longer, put the pressures and stereotypes on people that you should follow this and you should do this. So about the mental health, I think that in our side of the house, we don't have as worse mental health pressures as your world because we have two mechanisms. The first is when we force young people to choose their passionate career at the necessary time. So they'll get higher chance of getting an enjoyable future instead of stressfully choosing an appropriate path in such a late time in their life. So they're much more pressure from their parents, from societies, and from themselves, and peer pressures as well. And the second, when we force them to dream, they have a higher tendency to make dream come true because young people are more, sorry, I'm not taking it, because young people are a lot more likely to have a favorite career that they wholeheartedly contribute to instead of a job that dismotivate them every day. So, coming to this debate, I believe there are two main classes. The first class is which side of the house could lessen social stratification, and the second class, which side of the house could better prepare young people for adulthood. Let's talk about the first class. So, without our dominant narrative, the most likely alternatives will be: first, you can do whatever you want without having a dream, and I will prove why this is worse in your side of the house later in my speech. And second, the alternative dominant would be you should make as much money as possible without the need to study, and they will push people to vulnerable and temporary jobs which could not reflect their full potentials. And this happened in the rural and mountainous area like my second speaker have stated, where living standards are low and people ultimate goal is merely money. So here are some repercussions. So when people are coming for temporary jobs, they do not, which require little knowledge, because so when it comes to an unexpected crisis in their career, they don't have enough skills and mindset to have a new job, so they will make redundant in the job market. And you know what is the underlying reason? Because they do not recognize, because they compromise with faith, because they are born poor, so they think that it will be forever poor. So that will happen without a dominant narrative. So there will be another dominant toxic narrative in your world, that the poor will get poorer and the rich will get richer. The worst thing in your case is that young people in rural area will take light up education's example. That is a totally normal thing in your side of the house. At 18 years old, if they're a boy, they do manual job, and if they're a girl, they get married. Because not only school jobs are happening in your world, but also the inequity of well-being and economic growth. So conclusion for the first class. In your proposition world, you could not prove us how could young people in rural areas have a direction to improve their life without our dominant narrative. So opposition world, let me visualize my world. Education is the key to make dream come true because we make it as the fundamental things. So our second speaker have brought their three mechanisms. The first is emotional impact. So people become satisfied when they reach a certain level of their goals, so they will be more motivated to try harder. And second, there's a shift of government's attention
attention to the rural areas and will improve the education level in here. And third, media will highlight those who step out of the comfort zone in rural areas, and the attention will shift to rural areas to improve our life and well-being. So coming to the second class, we believe that we could optimize the decisions on fundamental turning points, because there are fixed deadlines in both worlds. You have to choose what is your high school, what is their major, what is the universities, and that's inevitable. But in or without the narrative, people do not pressure on that, so they will delay making decisions. So when it comes to those times in life, have little time to invest, they have little consideration, so they're more likely to fall into the jobs that society forced them to do because they do not speak their wills at the beginning. So with the narrative, although narrative put pressure on people, but they will motivate us to invest more time, effort into finding their truly passions, and that is the end of my speech.
Nice job, ladies. Nice. I'd like to start off with Miss Wing. Can I please hear from you first?
I can see clearly that both teams are trying to, elevate the debate, and I appreciate your effort for the proposition side. I really like, your response about how poor students gonna be under a lot of pressure. I think that response is really quick, and yeah, it's quite effective for me. I also like the fact about, how pressure pursuing the dream until the end and all. I think those ideas are nice. The only small problem I have in here is that at the end of your speech, you talk more about how people should follow their passion. And I was suddenly this idea about passion pop up out of nowhere. And I kind of confused a little bit, how passion is different from a dream, So that's a sub spot in there that I think that the next speaker of your team, if possible, you can try to deal with it. For the opposition side, I see a lot of efforts in on your speech, a lot of flexibility there. However, for the rebuttals, I feel like your lack of explanation in the rebuttal. For example, you say we're gonna force them to have a dream at a necessary time. And it was when? And how do you know that? There are other times when you make that mistake as well. But I really like the fact when you directly respond to the proposition side about for poor student, how it's gonna look like. So I think this is a very interesting point of the debate when the two teams have direct clashes with each other. And I think it will all boils down to the last speakers of the teams, the replying speakers, to really, balance it off and show me which team is actually should take the debate today. So for that being said, I would give my 10 points to the team that by far answers more questions for me, and that is the proposition team.
Thank you so much. So proposition team now is up to 30 points. Nice. I'd like to hear from Mr. Hugh.
Both of you on the rebuttal part, I think neither side does well. To be honest, you guys rebut by using your previous argument, and you just paraphrase it without any further extension or development. So I feel like the rebuttals are not working because I feel you just recycle what the previous speakers have said. I think both of you have the highlight of your speech is in the clash. I think both did a equally great job and the clash, to be honest. Why the opposition team choose a strategy where you further developing the idea on the poor people or people from the rural areas to strengthen the social mobility. I think it's a nice thing to keep diving further into that to strengthen the mechanism. But my question is, how about the broader young people? Because it seems like your whole case just now focus on that specific target group. How about the other young people? That's what I feel missing. The proposition team, you guys do a different approach where you compare between short term and long term. I think that's a very nice approach, and which took me quite surprised when you kind of flip it to the long run. But towards the end, you kind of start talking about how young people have time and space and time to discover. I think I wish that material could have come earlier in the first and the second debater so that you have time to develop that. So I feel like highlight of the both sides are the clash. There's towards the end, I need one more. But as of right now, I feel my 10 point go to the team, but at least throughout the three speeches, they cover more of the general population than just focus on one target group. That's why my 10 points go to the proposition team.
Nice job. And that puts us at 40-40. We're at a tie. So Stuart, want to be the tiebreaker today?
For me, going into this round, there were actually a lot of questions that I still had over arguments from both sides. And actually, I think going into the final round, I had more questions. I had a better understanding of where the opposition was coming from than the proposition. With this round, the proposition, for me, did an incredible job of really interacting and addressing the notion of dominant narrative. And I think actually you made that very, very clear, which has actually retrospectively gone and made your other points in the first 2 rounds clearer, in my sense as well. I understand your mechanism a little bit more. So the notion that a dominant narrative is not only just one that's talked about a lot, but actually a dominant narrative pushes through an ideal dream. And I think actually you utilize that really, really strongly. For the opposition side, I really like the clarity in the way that you brought your case today. You mentioned the clashes really well. You explained why your team was strong on certain clashes. Overall, your ability to kind of break down these notions in terms of also affecting the notion of like temporary jobs, and that, you know, if they don't have a dream, then they'll just kind of go into these jobs. I think there was a little bit of a limitation with some of those ideas, but I think that the clarity and structure you brought to your round was really good. If I'm weighing both up though, my 10 points go to the team that actually made me understand more clearly what this idea of dominant narrative is and how it has ramifications, and that for this round is actually the proposition side.
Thank you so much. So, are you feeling more confident now?
Yes, more hopeful.
More hopeful? Okay, well, keep up the good confidence. I mean, building your confidence, you really might develop a lot more if you're just a little bit more confident, because you obviously have the skills. Yeah? So keep up the good work, okay? Good luck. And my friend, trust me, you're still very good.
Yeah, thank you.
With the critiques from the judges, what can we use to make it better next time?
Well, I guess I should focus more on time management and, you know, use a more exact phrase and to try to cover more targets, because I spend a lot of time on like focusing on just one group of people. So I think I need to, you know, make it bigger and try to cover more on, you know, the overall population.
Okay.
And I guess that's it.
Well, at least you got some good criticism that you can build from, okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Good luck, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. You can have a seat. And stay tuned. We'll be right back with reply speeches.
On outside of the house, those without a dream are allowed time and space to discover themselves. They have no societal pressure on them, so they have a peace of mind. They have free space to experience.
So with the narrative, although narrative put pressure on people, but they were motivated to invest more time, effort into finding their truly passions. And
with this round, the proposition for me did an incredible job of really interacting and addressing the notion of dominant narrative. And I think actually you made that very, very clear.
Welcome back to The Debaters Season 3. We're now down to the reply speeches. The proposition team has 50 points and the opposition team has 40 points. So it's still close and we're not quite sure who will be the winner today. With that being said, I'd like to invite up our last 2 speakers. From the proposition side, may I please have L.A.S.E.R. And from the opposition side, may I please have VTV7. Welcome, guys. Before we get started with our reply speeches, I'd like to remind us of the rules very quickly. Each contestant will have 2 minutes to present their speech. There'll be no POIs allowed in this round. And this round is completely anonymous, meaning that judges will not give any feedback. And we will start with the opposition team. Any questions? Perfect. With that being said, may the debates begin.
There are 2 points that both teams try to tackle. First is mental issue. Your team helped the young people to avoid it when they're young, but we have stated that they can avoid it forever because their deadline, their milestone, their fixed deadline. So delaying it only leads to even worse issue in adult life, including switching majors, drop out, illnesses, and working in a hostile environment and not perform well in work. That would lead to, you know, peer pressure and financial issue that is even more malevolent to the mental health. Secondly, it's also interested in forcing dream on children. You say that dream caused social injustice. This narrative caused social injustice, and that is an assumption. Because as a fact, social injustice exists independently of this dominant narrative. And this dominant narrative even help breaking that social injustice by having people to dream and do against it. So the two teams bring it to this debate. You state the status quo and blame it on us. You say that there's social injustice, they're forcing people on dream, that people, switching major and their mental health issue, and you blame it all on us. Why not proving exactly how your team is going to help solving those issues? Why we can exactly prove how our team have inclusive value and is helping both young people and society from those problems. You give assumption that social injustice, that forcing dream is on us, and you don't prove and justify how your side could be any better. So without our narrative on dream, we believe your word is just a daydream narration, and that's my speech today. Thank you.
We are constantly reminded of a deadline that we need to meet because at this young age we are told that we should have a dream at a young age like this, and however we are wondering why should we limit ourselves to that deadline, because even though we meet the deadline, but in the world that this dominant narrative appears and exists, the dreams that we are making is not just for ourselves, but it's just because we are need to fulfilling and meet that deadline. It's an obligation that we need to meet the deadlines, and maybe there are people they can define their true dream and what they truly want as a deadline, but the vast majority they don't. They are not ready to make that decision yet. Why should they make that decision as a deadline just because people are doing so? Why shouldn't they choose that deadline and make that deadline for them and choose their dream when they are ready, when they are truly ready and they have the passions, and when the dreams that in a world that there is no dominant narrative, the dream in that world, the dreams they are passion filled, and when they meet, they overcome, even if at that time they are not young anymore, but at least they have the passions that they find the desires that can motivate them to overcome all the difficulties, and that dream is theirs, not someone else, not by the societies or because of the dominant cultures. And in the end, when they achieve that dream, at least that dream is meaningful for them. It's just not only for the basic necessity about the financial crisis or because of peer pressures, but it's also because for themselves. Maybe at this age, at 18, you can make a decision that which university that you can make, which career you should make. But just because you are told to that 18 is the only time that you can dream. But if we have more time and we can dream every time that we win, and then that dream is ours and we can feel fully happy with that decisions, and then that is the dream that we are aiming for. And that's the end of my speech.
Thank you so much, guys. This round is completely anonymous, so we'll have no remarks from the judges. Thank you, guys. You guys can have a seat. And stay tuned. We'll be right back with our final results. Welcome back to The Debaters Season 3. Before I reveal the final results, I'd like to present the most valuable speaker. We have a remote audience that's been voting on their favorite speaker of tonight. The winner will receive a prize of 1 million Vietnam đồng. With that being said, let's take a look at the board for our results. Đỗ Ngọc Nam Phương, congratulations, you're the winner. Please step on up. I'd like to present this award to you, and also you'll be receiving a 1 million Vietnamese đồng prize. What are you going to do with the money?
I think I'm going to treat my team or my mentors to a meal, I guess.
Okay, nice. Sounds pretty good. And being new today, is it surprising that you won?
Yeah, it's surprising to me too.
Yeah, but a little bit confidence builder, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, good job. And can I please have the rest of the contestants on stage to reveal the final results? I have in my hands the results from the reply speeches. Currently, the proposition team has 50 points and the opposition team has 40 points. So the results will be deciding our winner for tonight. So let's see. First up, 5 points for opposition team. 45 points. Next, 5 points for opposition team again. Putting us at a tie. So looks like the last one will be deciding. You guys nervous? Yeah, ready? And the winner is Proposition Team. Congratulations, guys. Remember, there will be one last team also voted on by our judges to participate in the semifinals, so don't feel down. Well, thank you so much, both of you guys. Thank you, my panel of judges, and thank you, British University of Vietnam, for supporting us today. With that being said, thank you, guys. And before we go, we have a little reveal from the judges, so stay tuned, folks.
Okay, judges, so we had 3 very heated debates, but we can only choose one team to move forward to semi-final. So just briefing, we have the first team, Rainbow Unicorn. They had 40 points. The second team is L.A.S.E.R They had 45 points. And the third team is L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu with 50 points. So which team do you think is your favorite?
It's a difficult one. For me, it comes largely down to 2 teams. I think actually the caliber of talent this year has been incredible. And for making this particular decision, for me, it's weighing up between L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu and L.A.S.E.R L.A.S.E.R incredibly clinical in their presentation of the debate and building up their debate. But I do have a soft spot for L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu. I think actually they've developed a huge amount during this tournament itself, and even taking into a lot of consideration the feedback from the judges and building that through the rounds.
That's true. Mr. Hill, which team is your favorite?
I am having the same kind of like conflict as Stuart between AMS and L.A.S.E.R. For me, L.A.S.E.R is a really back and forth between L.A.S.E.R and the winner of that debate. They have time when they just really shine on, and there's time that is just a little bit flat. But I think it's a very neck to neck in that debate. Whereas AM is more like a team that is very seasoned, that is very polished. The caliber between the 3 debaters are obviously on the same level, and they are also against a very strong team as well. So in that team, obviously, is in the debate of between AMS and the winning team. I think the fact that AMS got a lower score doesn't mean that they're not as good as the other team. True. Whereas L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu, I feel like they have so much potential, and I think they are a team that is not as seasoned and as a veteran as ARMS, but they grow and they show so much potential. So I think, yeah, same thing. I'm back and forth between ARMS and L.A.S.E.R.
I actually think the 2 teams are very, very potential. I would lightly lean towards AMS a little bit because the nuance in their arguments are more clearly shown than in L.A.S.E.R's argument. The argument, they have some hit, they have some miss, but for AMS, it's mostly not about like, explanation anymore. It's more about how they handle the attacks from the other teams and how they, like develop their case more. So it's a very close call for me, but I would go for AMS.
So, can I ask what Stuart go for first?
I can go first. Yeah, listening to both of your comments, I have to agree on a lot of them. If I'm really thinking, I would love L.A.S.E.R Chíu Chíu to go through because I think actually seeing their confidence build, I would love to see what they can do when they're feeling a little bit less nervous. However, going through into the semi-finals is not going to reduce the kind of pressure of the occasion. And I think realistically, if I have to weigh up both groups, I think L.A.S.E.R are already prepared to bring everything they've got to the semi-finals and put up a really good match for whoever they face in the next round. So my vote will go for L.A.S.E.R, but I do really love the other team as well.
So my decision won't be the swing vote, but obviously I will vote for AMS as well, so we have a consensus on AMS.
Okay, so that's great. Finally, we reach a consensus result. So congratulations, L.A.S.E.R, you are the 4th team in the semifinals.